What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a movie that is several years old now, but that I saw multiple times when it was first released in the theater. This came out when I turned 22, 2012, I think was the year this was released. And I remember seeing this in the theater and being genuinely unsettled by it. And this movie also stars the great Ethan Hawke, and I've watched this a few times over the years and revisited it, but it's been probably 4 or 5 years since the last time I watched it. And through October and even into November, throughout the spookier season of the year, I always love watching a lot of horror films, and it often makes me want to revisit movies that I haven't seen in a while. And so I went into this and was really looking forward to rewatching it. And the movie I'm going to be talking about with you today is Sinister. Sinister is directed by Scott Derrickson. True crime writer Ellison Oswald is in a slump. He hasn't had a bestseller in more than 10 years and is becoming increasingly desperate for a hit. So when he discovers the existence of a snuff film showing the deaths of a family, he vows to solve the mystery. He moves his own family into the victim's home and gets to work. However, when old film footage and other clues hint at the presence of a supernatural force, Ellison learns that living in the house may be fatal. So I was really excited to revisit this because I really enjoyed it when I saw it in 2012 and the times that I've revisited it throughout the years. And I still really like this movie a lot. I definitely think it has its fair share of flaws, and it's not a perfect movie by any means. But what I really like so much about this movie is the way that it builds tension and dread. The atmosphere in this is great. There's something about this guy sitting in a room with this old film projector and watching these movies that feel like no one should ever see them. These very brutal depictions of families being murdered. And I love the way the story is structured, and I like this world a lot, and I'm excited to tell you about the movie today. So that plot description breaks it down perfectly. At the beginning of the film, we're introduced to Ellison, played by Ethan Hawke, and he is a writer who has had a couple of big hits, but he's had a slump for the past several years and hasn't been able to write another hit. And the family is coming into financial problems, so he decides to move him, his wife, and his two children into this home that, unbeknownst to his wife and his children, was the site of a murder. And the murders happened in the backyard of the house, where an entire family was hung with the exception of one of the family members, the young daughter who disappeared. And so because he's learned about this story, he wants to write a book about it. So he moves in and starts to do research about the murders. Well, going through the house one day, he goes upstairs in the attic, and in this completely desolate attic, there's a box labeled Home Movies. And he pulls the box down, and there's a projector inside of it. And when he loads the projector up with the first movie, it's the footage of the family at this house being killed. And he sees it, and it horrifies him. And he goes through all of these films in this box, and it's a series of families being murdered. And he notices as he's watching these movies that there's some sort of person or entity in the frame. And the entirety of the film is Ellison finding out that these murders are connected, and that whatever is connecting them involves this entity or person that is in the frame of these films. So like I said, I really enjoy this movie, despite the fact that I think the movie has its fair share of flaws. For starters, Ethan Hawke is fantastic in this, and he's just a really talented actor. I feel like no matter what situation you put him in, he just adds so much to whatever film he's involved in. He's an incredibly believable character. He has a lot of really fantastic emotional moments in this that I think really showcase just how amazing of an actor that he is. Some of the other performances in the film don't necessarily match up to how great his performance is, but because he's such a captivating actor, I'm able to excuse some of the other performances in the movie. I love the atmosphere in this film. I love the office he sits in to watch these movies. There's a lot of dark spaces and empty corners that send your eye wandering as a viewer when he's sitting here watching this old film projector. And after the first film he watches, we know there's always going to be something happening in these that is evil. We know that we're going to watch something that we'd probably rather not see. And what I love is the way Scott Derrickson is able to build tension surrounding that, and the way that he reveals these incredibly vile things that are happening on screen. And I like the way that the supernatural is incorporated into the movie. I feel like it's really interesting. I love when movies incorporate demonology and mythos like that. It just makes it really fascinating. There's a lot of great moments here that build up true suspense and terror. There are some cheap jump scares in the movie, especially in the third act. There's like one of the cheapest jump scares I've ever seen, but I think Derrickson does a relatively great job of like balancing it, where there's certain moments that just send a chill up your spine because you're watching things that are truly terrifying. And there's also moments that he utilizes jump scares to just accentuate that feeling that you're getting throughout watching the entire film. And there's one jump scare in particular in this movie that I know is talked about quite a bit, involving a lawnmower. I remember seeing it the first time in the theater and it really taking me by surprise. And it's very well executed. And I think that's what I like the most about this movie is it's genuinely unsettling and it makes you feel uncomfortable. And that's what the best horror movies do. I think as far as flaws of the movie, a lot of the logic surrounding this film is relatively silly, like the fact that the wife has no idea what's going on, or that she wouldn't do any research prior to her family moving into this area when her husband is literally a true crime novelist. You feel like she would pay more attention, and that it wouldn't be until halfway or three-quarters of the way into the movie that she finds out that she's living in a murder house. Like some of those moments, they just feel a little underwritten and kind of nonsensical. And I wish that there was a little bit more attention to detail to that. I feel like there's other conflict that you could add into the movie that would create drama instead of that being the real focal point. And then obviously the two children here, one of the kids, he sleepwalks at night. One of the jump scares is like him popping out of a cardboard box, which was kind of lame. Even watching it this time for like the sixth or seventh time, I felt like it was kind of a lame jump scare. The shock value of it doesn't necessarily work for me this time around. And I feel like there are moments like that that could be restructured. Like I said, some of the performances in this aren't great. The one character that really annoys me is like the cop who's just obsessed with him as an author, that just wants to help out with him. I didn't really like that character addition all that much, and I feel like it's relatively underwhelming. And the way they use him to reveal information, especially towards the end of the movie, it just feels kind of cheap and formulaic. But aside from some of those qualms that I have with the film, it's just an entertaining watch. And that's exactly what I'm looking for when I'm watching a horror movie, is something to entertain me and to scare me. And I think Sinister does a very effective job of doing both. So have you seen Sinister? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was incredibly entertaining. I enjoy this movie every time I watch it, and I always look forward to revisiting it. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.